is Lydia Katsamberis. And Lydia is a JavaScript developer, or JavaScript developer, at Craigslist, which is, oh, okay, I've just heard we're out of ice now, so that was fast, but good job on the, like, 6 of you who got the ice that was in the machine. So she's a JavaScript developer at Craigslist, which is pretty amazing if you're familiar with Craigslist, which is an organization that serves one of the biggest websites in the world with a team of, like, barely more than a dozen people. And she's going to be telling us about the wild and wonderful world of bookmarklets. So give a hand for Lydia.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my voice is really loud. All right. My name's Lydia. I'm a JavaScript engineer, as you heard. I am LLCats. That's a little cut off. LLCats on Twitter and GitHub. And I wanted to talk about bookmarklets and how to make them and why they are a cool project. But before I begin, really quickly, I just wanted to shout out to Craigslist. I just started there on Monday. So they wanted me to let you know that they are hiring. So please come talk to me or hit me up at lydia@craigslist.org. Also, my swag got delivered today, so come find me if you want t-shirts or USB bottle openers or stickers. That finally came, so hooray. So I was thinking about different projects you might want to make as a developer, and the different things that you want to do. You might just want to have an idea and whip something up, right? So maybe you think, okay, I'll make an app. Well, okay, I need HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe a database of some sort, a server to run it on, maybe server-side language or two, I don't know. Design, UI, image assets, the list goes on. If you're just starting out as a developer, you might not have that entire skill set under your tool belt at the moment, and it's kind of intimidating to get started. Maybe you're a more advanced developer and you're strapped for time. You just want to put your idea out there. And it just is too much to do. So I don't know about an app idea for like a quick project. Maybe you want to make a Twitter bot. That's kind of a cool project. There's some nice frameworks out there, but you still have to mess around with a server, learn an API, get set up with developer accounts. Maybe you just want something simpler. So you can guess what I might suggest to you, and that is to think about making a bookmarklet. The only thing that you need to get started making a bookmarklet is a browser with some Devtools. And the only thing you need to finish it and deploy is that same browser. You don't even need any external tools. So what makes up a bookmarklet? Chances are you've already used one. Bookmarklets are used to add a little more functionality to a site, or maybe to an older browser that doesn't have the same functionality modern browsers do. You can use it to perform demos or experiments with new APIs and show them off. Or you can provide persistent contact to a service that you have made or use as you browse the web. I think that's one of the most well-known aspects of bookmarklets. You might use one to save links to Pocket or Delicious or Instapaper. So they're kind of everywhere, and you might already be familiar with their use. Fundamentally, they're just JavaScript, and they have just a few special qualities about them. First is that they start with the JavaScript URL protocol. This was invented by Brendan Eich back in the day, like way back, as a part of Netscape 2.0. And his idea was that he wanted to be able to execute arbitrary JavaScript against whatever DOM he was on. You can trigger it from a link by putting it in the href portion of an anchor tag, which also makes a handy way to put it into a website for people to install. You can also put the JavaScript URL into the URL bar of a browser to try to execute it from there. Next, Bookmarklet is self-contained. You want to make sure that you're containing all your functionality within the same function. You can wrap it inside an anonymous function to invoke it immediately. And that's handy, so your bookmarklet works. You want to make sure that your bookmarklet doesn't return anything or returns undefined, because if it returns a value, the browser might try to render that value, and that's probably not what you want. I noticed this does happen in Firefox, although Chrome doesn't seem to do anything. So just to make sure you're not going to trigger some sort of unexpected render, you want to make sure that you either return undefined, or you might see some functions or bookmarklets wrapped in a void function. That's also another option. And then finally, it's self-executing. Like I mentioned, you want to make sure that it executes after you've declared it. So what are some things you can do with bookmarklets? Well, you can do silly things. A friend and old coworker of mine made Gaiify. So it's a bookmarklet that adds everyone's favorite Food Network personality to their site. You could also add Nancat, which we'll see if he shows up. Might not. You'll have to take my word for that one. Also, you can play Katamari Damacy with your DOM if you use the CatHack Katamari bookmarklet, and you can roll that guy around and pick things up if it's small enough. Sometimes it doesn't work, but the physics are pretty good. So that is that. Did I can close that out? All right. So, let's see. Excuse me for just one moment. All right. You can also do some useful stuff, like sending links to Pocket or Delicious, Pinterest. There's also some readability bookmarklets out there to strip tags from the sites that are really kind of irritating sort of styles and make things a lot easier for you to use. Actually, CJ turned me on to that one, so I went and looked it up and threw it into my presentation really quick. Doing that is kind of like learning to use the internet level 2. You have if you make a bookmarklet that helps you out, it's like you're bending the internet to your will. And I think it's really quite powerful. So as far as creating bookmarklets, the workflow that I like to use is just in Chrome Devtools, and you hardly need anything else. I just like to pop them open and start taking a look at what's available in the DOM, what the structure of the HTML is, and what I might want to manipulate as far as the UI elements. From there, I start typing into the console and start to create rough functions that I want to use. I also try to look at what's available as far as global variables that are exposed by whatever's on the page already, so that I don't have to do a lot of the extra work or overhead myself. So here I was actually, since I made my slides in Reveal.js, I wanted to just make a little bookmarklet that would automatically trigger my slide changes so that my slides would just increment after a certain interval. And I was able to see that Reveal itself is exposed as a global variable and has a lot of really nifty functions that I can just use. So reveal.next goes to the next slide. So I don't have to trigger anything myself or write that myself. So once you start getting a handle on what's available in the console, you're probably going to start writing some more complex functions. And if you're writing just in the console, things get out of hand really quickly. It's kind of a pain to write there. Fortunately, Chrome Devtools has a handy snippets panel under the sources where you can make small files and execute them from there. It has kind of a rudimentary text editor, but it gets the job done. It has syntax highlighting, matches your brackets and parens automatically, it tabs. You can run your bookmarklet by hitting Command-Enter, and just iterate really quickly. So you don't have to go into an external editor and then copy and paste your code over all the time. You also don't need to set up any live reload flows. You just have everything at your fingertips, and can refresh and iterate very, very quickly. So good things that you might want to consider as you're building out your bookmarklets. UI elements might be necessary if your user needs to set anything, or interact with your script at all during the course of its executing. Also, after your bookmarklet has executed, you want to remove any of those DOM elements or any event listeners that you set, so that you don't accidentally trigger any unexpected behaviors. You also might want to minify your script and have it use HTML entities and code all of the symbols before you set it into the wild. There's a great bookmarklet. It's kind of cut off here, but there's a great little site online, which will be linked in my slides, that, let's see, I might have it. No, I don't. All right. So you can use that site as well, and it'll automatically encode everything and minify it and make it all exactly what you need. Oh, rats. There we go. As far as deploying, you can make your own site to deploy. The Katamari Damacy bookmarklet that I showed off, it has its own site at cathack.com. But I like to just be able to drop it into a gist and put it online as quickly as possible. Gists don't render their HTML, so what you can do is view that through Roget. And this is cut off a little bit, but the thing you want to do is grab the raw link out of the, hit the raw button, grab that URL, excuse me, drop it into Roget and grab the correct URL. The production URL puts it onto a CDN and then never updates it. So if you're still developing your bookmarklet, make sure to grab the development link. Otherwise, you won't see your changes. So if I'm going to use the auto advance your bookmarklet, I'm just going to hit that, and it'll start the interval up. I wrote in a UI thing to alert the user that the bookmarklet actually loaded and is working. And then it just steps through every 4 seconds and works just fine. So, and then to quit, I made a event listener on a keyboard shortcut listening for Shift Q, and then it lets you know that it stopped and it doesn't go anymore. So that's just a simple sort of thing. As far as advanced features go, when you release a bookmarklet, a user installs it into their bookmarks bar, and then it's static forever. Like, it just lives in their bookmarklets bar, or their bookmarks bar, unless they choose to update it themselves. So how do you get the latest code to your users? One option is to just make your bookmarklet purely a link to your script, which is hosted elsewhere. So you can make a script tag, set the source to be the path to your script, and then append that to the head. And then every time the user triggers the bookmarklet, they get the latest copy of your script. That's especially useful if you're in the middle of developing it. The negatives of that are that it's an extra HTTP request every single time you trigger your bookmarklet, and it won't work offline. So if they try to play Katamari offline, they're not going to be able to, because that script actually pulls down the new script every single time. And then you can also bring in libraries. If you really need to use jQuery, or say you want to lean on D3 for some animations or for some data viz stuff, you can pull in a script in much in the same way as appending the, as I demonstrated before, appending the script tag. But in that case, you want to make sure that you're listening for the onload event, so that you don't trigger your bookmarklet and try to use a thing that isn't downloaded yet. So it's just a simple code snippet. So to demonstrate that, I made a I pulled in this library that I found that uses a webcam to detect movement on from the webcam. So I'm going to see if that will work. Let's see. No. So it asks me for my web camera, turns it on, and then it's a little derpy, but it does do like some movement something. Yay, all right. So unfortunately, I did not write. I'm going to catch up here. So that's just an example of pulling. It's almost the same code as the previous bookmarklet, but it just pulls in this library, and I'm able to leverage that library without having to write all that extra functionality myself. So that's kind of fun. Pitfalls of making bookmarklets are that if you want to pass data across pages or tabs, that's really difficult to do because your script becomes subject to cross-site scripting rules. Handling page refreshes becomes difficult if you want to persist data, so you'll have to store it in cookies or local storage, something like that. There's always cross-browser compatibility to consider if you are supporting older browsers. So why exactly did I want to come here today and talk about bookmarklets of all things? Well, I found this crazy GIF chat room called MeetSpaces. Some of you might have heard of it. It uses WebRTC to capture video from your webcam, and it turns you into a 2-second looping GIF every time you send a message. This was made by a Mozilla engineer named Jen Fong Adwent, and she wanted the feature set to be really, really minimal. But I thought it would be kind of cool to be able to write functionality for hands-free GIFs somehow. So I ended up writing a bookmarklet that inserts a time delay between the time that you hit enter and the time that your message is sent and your GIF is captured, so that you could like get your hands up and do a perfect loop or any sort of like hands-free GIFing. And everyone really liked it. I had never made a bookmarklet before, but it turned out it was fairly easy, and I had this idea and just made it in one afternoon. It was really silly and simple, but it really made an impact on how people used that site and also how I felt about releasing code online. It's really nerve-wracking putting code online on behalf of yourself, like on GitHub, for everyone to see out there for the first time. Even if it's something small, you want to be respected, and you want people to think that what you've done is good. So making a bookmarklet that was small in scope and really added something useful to a site really gave me confidence that I could do that. It also grew into confidence that maybe I could come to a conference and talk about making bookmarklets. So here we are, and that's pretty cool too. So, in conclusion, bookmarklets, I think, are an ideal small project. They have a small project scope, so it's not overwhelming, uses one language, play with the website, learn its code, and make something from start to finish that's written and functional. It's fast, You don't need to set up any huge dev environments or have access to a server or do very much configuration at all. They're contained, single purpose, and easily distributed to your friends. They can be novel, cute, and fun. And you might not be able to say that, but they can have they can have a real impact, as I discovered myself as a developer, and they can also provide useful functionality for other people. So whether you want to write a novelty script or a full-fledged feature, I think that it's a great way to level up in your hacking abilities, and I think that you should all go out and hack on Bookmarklets. Thanks for listening to my first talk ever.